How you doing, guys? Welcome back to Coffee and Juice. So this is a channel where we talk about anabolics, TRT, TRT plus, and I also dive into the world of plastic surgery. So obviously, if you're gonna be a male model, or you are a male model, or you ever wondered, do they hit gear or do they do the juice? We're gonna talk about exactly the blueprint that is needed for you to become a male model, or what I speculate that they do. Because a little fun fact for you is that from 17 to about 24, I belong to the two biggest agencies in the world regarding fashion modeling. Now understand there's fit modeling and then there's your influencers, totally different world, and there's a totally different package that is attached to what kind of gear you might potentially run. So stick around and we're gonna talk about what models use to stay on top. Do models run gear? And I'm gonna say, due to the fact that I was in the industry, and remember, the industry could range anywhere from 17 years old to around 49, 50, etc., because everybody's trying to get that cheddar and chase paper. And if you're in the modeling world, you never want it to end because you don't want to grow up and get a real job, potentially working in a restaurant again. So now with that being said, what's the blueprint needed for you to stay on top as a male model, and what was used via my experience, like I stated prior, that I was in the industry for about 6 years. So now the first thing is that we talk about your diet model. So now we're going to do diet model first because it's going to be part of the package and it's going to somehow infiltrate the conversations that we're going to have in the future. So now you basically have to starve yourself to be a male model. I don't care who you are, because you have to understand, if you're not familiar with fashion modeling, is that the guy who wears the jacket the best gets the runway show. And what I mean by that is that in my day, it was a 36 regular to 38 regular on the top end. And basically the way it works is that it's a cattle call. You show up as an example to a Helmut Lang or a Balenciaga or a D&G, and basically you try on the jacket, because it's not really about the model, it's about the clothes, and the model is secondary. But it's gonna be who wears the clothes the best, and that's the line that they're pushing out for whatever season. So now with that being said, if you like carbohydrates, all I could say is that you want to be a male model, you better think twice, because your life is going to basically revolve around you starving yourself on a regular basis. And once again, if you have the discipline to be on low calorie, no carbs, and basically you're not eating, this is what male modeling is. That's the bottom line, okay, via my experience. So now that we got that out of the way with your diet, let's talk about skin quality. And what I mean by that, at any moment in time, they could say, could you please take your shirt off, please? So now what they're doing for whatever campaign or whatever shoot that they're looking to implement a male model, they want to see physically what your structure looks like. And once again, very competitive industry. So now skin quality, let's do this. So back in the day, but once again, it's still around, there's something called Thymicase. Thymicase is a French-produced pharmaceutical product, but I think now they actually sell it online, and it's a skin cream that increases the tightness and suppleness of your skin. So once again, it's offering you a cosmetic value regarding your skin quality. The second one's going to be a little something that now has presented itself in the TRT clinics, is something called aminophylline. Okay, so now what that is, believe it or not, it's like based off a licorice root, and it's almost like an asthma drug that you can rub on your body. But keep in mind, do not lather yourself in this particular cream, because the consequences for you is that you could stop breathing. And obviously that's not a good thing. You can't make any money or get campaigns in the future if you're dead. All right, so now once again, we got these skin creams coming up. So now when we talk about the PEDs, all I'm going to say is that in this particular background, depending on who you are and what your genetics are, you may do or run some monotherapy. And what I mean by that is that you might be somebody who's experienced a DHT derivative like Proviron, as an example. Proviron is a drug, you don't get too big on it, but it makes you very dry and it offers you a cosmetic advantage when it comes to PEDs. Now, once again, under the umbrella is going to be a stanozolol or Winstrol. Now, just so you understand, I'm going to show you a picture on the screen. And besides, working in the male modeling industry, you hear through the grapevine what people were doing on a particular shoot to look a particular way. So I'm going to show you some pictures, and this individual, I speculate or hearsay, it was doing Winstrol to get this particular structure and shape that you see on screen right now. So you have your Winstrol, you have your Proviron, And I also mentioned the cosmetics and the skin cream that can tighten you up. And if I circle back to the skin cream, people know that I've used Preparation H, which is like a poor man's cream that you can use to tighten your skin with a little saran wrap, is an old school thing. It's kind of like what these girls do with these corsets and these little sweat belts that they wear, and all they do is train glutes. But that's another story, like I always say, for another day. So now when we go a little bit further, let's go deep into the anabolic world. Now, are you somebody who's going to use Anavar or Oxandrolone? You might, but you would have to do it at a very low dose because, once again, you cannot get tremendous on these drugs. Because, once again, I go back to who wears the jacket the best and who looks the best in the clothes. If you get too big, you just took yourself out of the fashion world, and now you're going into the fitness world, which, once again, to be honest with you, is a completely different leap that you're taking, and it's a totally different pharmacology or polypharmacy that's involved, especially with your titration and personalizing your dosages. So now, when it comes back to male modeling, the dosage of Oxandrolone or Anavar is going to be as low as 2.5 to 5 milligrams, and maybe at the top end, if the quality of the product is high level, is going to be 10 milligrams for the Oxandrolone. So now we got the Ox, we got the Proviron, and once again, we got the Winstrol. Now, keep in mind, when it comes to Winstrol, if you got buku dollars and you want to have couture polypharmacy or couture gear, they have transdermal stenanazole or Winstrol that you could rub on your stomach, which is like a spot reducing idea when it comes to these skin creams that, once again, can maybe take you to the next level, make you a little drier, which is going to be important. Now, as an aside, understand when I say being a male model is the hardest job out of all these things that you see. It's harder than bodybuilding, and it's harder than being a fitness influencer. And let me explain to you why. Is that all year round, every day of your life, you're going on castings. That means you have to stay in superior shape at all times. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move a little bit forward, and we're going to talk about some other things, and we're going to go a little bit deeper. So as we move forward, trying to unravel what a male model would take, keep in mind that stimulants have to be in play. Because let me explain something to you. Normally, stimulants are going to make your appetite disappear. So when we talk about ibutamorin or MK677, which is actually an opposite drug, that all you want to do is eat out your refrigerator. So you got to understand something. That's why, people, they tout certain compounds for certain things, but remember, it's very goal specific on what you would take. And once again, it's always the crux of this channel, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of chemistry. So what it is that, your peptides, they may not even belong, but what's definitely gonna belong, contingent on your diet, contingent on who you are as a person. Like me personally, I'm a larger frame human being, and all I remember is that I was doing cardio 3 times a day, stimmed out of my mind, just to try to stay below 180, which, to be honest with you, in the world of fashion modeling, is big. All right. Some of you might be like, wow, I'm trying to get over 200 pounds. I can't even get there. But what I'm trying to say is that you have to be small, and you almost have to be in a state of atrophy or being catabolic or overtrained. And that's the overarching conversation, is that it's very unhealthy. And to try to get this particular model look, and once again, I don't want to jump or digress to plastic surgery, but that's why you see a lot of buccal fat removal, because everybody wants to look drawn in the face because it's like heroin chic or looking like a model. But understand that these things have consequences. And once again, I'm not a doctor, and this is for entertainment purposes only. So now if we have to move towards the stimulants, you got the ephedrine, if you could do it. You got all the, got Ritalin, you got Adderall. You have all these stims. And once again, if you input them into your blueprint, you would have to see if it works for you. And once again, not a recommendation, but this is what's being used. Now, I'm going to go into the world of stimulants, and now we're going to get a little deep. And now understand that I was modeling in the 90s, where a guy like Tyson Beckford, Marcus Schankenberg, Mark Vanderloo were the top guys. Like, if you understand, and depends on who's listening, those were the creme de la creme at the time. So now we have to also go into the party scene of staying on task and staying in shape. So once again, what models will use are recreational drugs. So now we'll go into the archives. Some of you still party, some of you still go out. There was clubs called the Roxy, the Sound Factory. Some of you know it as Pasha if you're a little older. You didn't hit the Sound Factory days. There was the Limelight, Wednesdays. If you went there, you're a weirdo, but that's cool. But whatever you were into at the time. So what I'm trying to say is that, there was the Tunnel. So now if you were a bartender, I'll give you an example. When you were bartender back in the day, you had to take your shirt off. There was bartenders with, with their shirts off. And like, besides being on gear, they were also on crystal meth. All right. So believe it or not, what people were using to stay in shape as a model, that's why it's a very unhealthy lifestyle, is that what's going to rip your visceral fat off of you? It's going to be those particular high. It's not that it's high quality, but it's like, very powerful amphetamines. So understand that in the mix of performance enhancing drugs, you also had drugs like crystal meth. You had people on coke, because you want to constantly be burning the fat that you would be keeping on your body, because once again, you may have to take your shirt off at any time, or it's either you get the campaign or you don't, because once again, you're battling the whole world to get a particular contract. Okay. So now we got the stems, we got the high grade stems that obviously are illegal, and know your legal laws on your country of origin, of course. And this is just for educational purposes only. So now when we go into like massive amounts of testosterone, I would say if you're smart in this day and age, there should definitely be some test sip or, test E in the mix so you don't crash. And there's some sort of baseline for you. And then whatever you implement is entirely up to you. So now we got skin quality, we got musculature, and also we have this shredded look that only certain compounds are going to give you. Now, will a model do tren? I don't know. Maybe at a low dosage they might. Back in the day, tren or Phenoplex wasn't really spoken about much unless you were doing fitness or bodybuilding. So just understand that. So now keep in mind, to be a male model, you have to basically starve yourself. There's a lot of cardio and so on and so forth. So understand that when people ask, do models do juice? All I'm going to say is that no matter what crevice of the world, when it comes to being competitive or where there's money to be made, or you have an opportunity to be famous, people are going to look for an advantage, and it's usually chemical warfare or a chemical advantage. So look, a little bit of my experience in the modeling world for as long as it lasted. I had a good time. Definitely an interesting experience. So look, coffee and juice, a little bit of an introspective on what a male model can or would, or I speculate have taken in the past, or what they do now. So have a good day.